And Affinity is like the direct alternate to Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. Imagine paying subscription fees for all of the software and hearing there's an alternate that is free. Yes, that's why you're here. That's why a lot of other persons also are here. This is the second time I'm shooting this particular video. Thanks to OBS. It recorded some part and left some part out. Anyways, I'm still recording the video again, and this time around, OBS got nothing on me. I'm sure the reason why you're here is because Affinity is free. So there's no need asking you or telling you about Affinity being free. But if you don't know, Affinity is now free. You understand? Canva bought it to give it to you for free. That's what we call boss moves. You understand? So in this video, we'll be diving deep. We're diving deep. We're getting into all you need to get started with Affinity all in one, you get in this video. So before now, Affinity used to be a 3-in-1, or should I say 3-in-1 or 1-in-3. Affinity is the alternate to Adobe InDesign, Adobe Photoshop, and Adobe Illustrator. Whichever of these you use and you're coming down to Affinity, you don't have any problems. You can even import your files, like Photoshop files, Illustrator files, and design files into Affinity because it supports it, like fully supports it, you understand? So in this video, we'll be getting into how to get started with Affinity. So I've been using Affinity for a period of time now. I've used it for projects, like lots of projects from start to finish. Packaging, branding, designs, advertising, and marketing designs. Like I've used Affinity for that deep. Not the new version per se, but when they were like different, you understand? When they were like Affinity Designer, Affinity Photo, and Affinity Publisher. Now they're together, there's no actual much difference between how they work. It's just how it now looks and probably some extra tools added newly. So let's get right into it without any further too much talk. So when you get into Affinity, you would not see this, definitely. You wouldn't see this. You will also not see this. This is what you're likely to see. This, or this, or this, and without this. You understand? So let's show you what you actually see. So let's get to new. This is what you see. No, that's not what you see. This is what you see. So you'll see, you won't see recent documents. You'll not see my template. You just see welcome to Affinity and forgotten, I think, some of their presets to start with. So these are Affinity. This new version just came in a few days ago, and I've already done this with them, with Affinity. That's to tell you that I'm not new to Affinity, and that's why I hear you that is new to come and learn something new from me. You understand? So these are my templates I've made, and these are tutorials and documents that comes with it that you can learn Affinity from. But I don't think you might need that. But in case you want to check it out, you can still check it out. Let's get right into getting started with Affinity. So since you do not have recent documents and you want to start having recent documents, that's why you're here, obviously. I have my template. You go to here, and then you see presets for document settings you can start with. So let's get right into setting it yourself. You can turn it off if you don't want to use that. You can also turn it on. You can change from the different orientations from here. So watch what happens. You see it flips this back. Pixel document unit is where you change your measurement unit for your document. DPI, does point, that determines how sharp your document starts and ends. I usually leave it at 300 to 400. page width and height, you know what that is already, how tall or how wide your document is. Ultra zoom, default, blah, 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 blah. Color format, this is depending on what you're working on. Same with color profile. Transparent background, you turn this on off depending on if you want the background to be transparent. So by default, when it's not transparent, it's white. The artboards. Now take a look. There's artboards. There's also multi-page. If I turn off this, you can see I can enable this. But once I enable this, I can't, like, you can't turn on this and turn on this together. So what are the difference? You know, initially I said Affinity Designer, Affinity Photo, and Affinity Publisher we have merged into one. All right. So when you say artboards, it automatically tells Affinity, okay, that you want to work on a design, on a vector kind of work. If you tell it multi-page, it tells you want to work on a document kind of work, like books or brochures or stuff like that. But if none of them is checked, it tells Affinity you want to work on something like photos or flyers. You understand? So whether you check this or this does not limit you to the tools you can use. It only just tells the software that, okay, make the software ready for this kind of work, that this is the end goal, you understand? So that's when you choose artboard. So if you want to do logo designs, illustrations, artboards. If you want to do books, brochures, magazines, multi-page. If you want to do flyer marketing designs, turn both of them off. So now you have image placement. There's two: prefer embedded and prefer linked. When you use linked and you drag an image into Affinity, it links the image in Affinity to your source. So in the sense that if you go to your file explorer and delete that image file, it will delete from Affinity. While embedded, create a copy inside of Affinity so that if you delete the source file, nothing happens to that in Affinity. That's why I always prefer embedded. I also say you go for embedded and not linked. Import text as linked. Nope, you don't want to do that. You already get what linked and not linked is already. Preserve text style. So this is usually used when you're working on page documents. So you have a document inside of Microsoft Word or Google Docs or basically any Word document, yeah? And you're copying text from any of them. When you want to preserve the style, you turn this on. That's what it basically does. And I've explained multi-page and artboard for you. Margins, blade drawing scale. It's just you separating or keeping boundaries between the edge of your canvas, your artboard or page from your actual content. So with that all said and done, once making a setting, you can save it as preset. Just put the preset name and click create preset and click on create document. Now we've created our document. Remember, initially we are in the layout. So that's why it's here. Normally it will switch to the kind of document I choose. So it will normally have switch to vector because I set it to artboard and not page. But I changed that in the settings, so I'll show you later on. So you have your menu bar here, you have your toolbar, you have your context menu, and you have another toolbar here. So toolbar 1, toolbar 2. These tools here support the document. These tools here support what you're trying to work on. We'll get into more detail. So the tools here are based on what you're trying to achieve. So you have all of these tools. You have vector tools, you have pixel tools, you have layout tools, and these different parts where you have different set of tools created or made just for that workflow kind of work is called studios. That's what Affinity calls it. So you have the Vector Studio, you have the Pixel Studio, you have the Layout Studio. Before now, the Vector Studio was Affinity Designer, Pixel was Affinity Photo, Layout was Affinity Publisher. And within the software, then there's this feature where you can use Photos tool inside of Vector. And switching then, it was called personas. So this persona to that persona, Pixel persona, Vector persona. But in their latest object is called studios. All right. So you have different studios and you can also create yours. So you can create and you can also turn off the ones you don't want or the ones you don't use or you don't want to see at the moment. When you open Affinity, this is what you see. This is what you see. For the first time, this is what you're going to see. So let's go over the files, file menu. So all of this is helps you create, delete, save, import, export your file, your document as a whole, like your whole file. That's what that menu does. Then edit. This is dependent on what is selected or what is not selected. So if I select nothing, you see, so much of that is selected. If I select the artboard now, selected. Document is just you reshaping, resizing, rotating the document. Then you also have what we call resource manager. If you remember previously, I talked about linked and embedded. So if you have image files in here, you will see them here and you can then either link or embed them. So if it was linked already, you can change it from here to be embedded. Or let's say want some files to be linked, you want some files to be embedded, making your document as a whole or your file as a whole larger or smaller. You can do that from the resource manager. Then you go to section manager. So section manager is, you've actually seen books, PDF versions or hard copy books where in the start you see something like the pages is in Roman numerals, I, 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 IV, blah blah blah. Then what's it called? The remind me the name. The next part now will be in alphabet A, B, C, D. Then the last part will then be in actual numbers 1, 2, 3. So how you differentiate these pages to be numbered from this point to this point in this kind of format, you use section manager, which we'll get into in a later video, more broader, when we're talking about document, all right, or making document kind of designs inside Affinity, like brochures, books, magazines, and the rest. Then you go to font manager, basically what it does, font managing. Text. So when you have text on your canvas, all right, these are all the options you have for that text. Character traits, size, spacing, everything about text, you get it from this menu. Now vector, let's create a shape. Let's say, let's make it red so that you see it very clearly. This works with vector objects. So what's the difference between vector and pixel or vector and raster? Vector doesn't get pixelated because it's like mathematics. Let's leave the mathematics part. Just know that vectors do not get blurry at any point in time. It doesn't ever get blurry. But pixels or raster files gets blurry. That's why you see you zoom and zoom and zoom. It's no longer clear anymore. Unlike vector, it's always clear. That's the major difference. So this works with vector elements on your canvas. So if I duplicate this, let's make this black or gray. Now if I select both of them, you see we have more options selected. If I select just one, we have less selected. So this is for vector options. Pixel, already mentioned. When you're working with images, want to create a mask, adjustment layer, you're working on photo editing, the pixel is for you. Then layers has to do with layers, these layers over here. All right, that's what it has to do with. So we select two now. You see, we have more options selected. We can group, we can ungroup, we can do a lot of things. Then view, you have your zoom. You know what zoom is. Rotate, you know what rotate is. Mode. So pixel mode, if you're in pixel mode and you're working with vectors, so you're working with, like, you create a box, there's a point you get to, you start seeing that it's getting pixelated. That means it can get blurry from that point. But you're in vector mode, it never gets blurry. So for the show, this is to show hide margins, bleeds, guides, basically things that shows you, okay, this starts here, this ends here, this begins here, this ends here. That's what the show does. So it helps you shows boundaries and starting points of objects, text, and every kind of layer. Log guides, snapping, you can set all of those on view. So basically how you view what you're working on, what you're viewing with, that's what view does. Then windows. Windows are basically this, also known as panels. We'll see some other place where it was called panels. So these are windows. I can drag this out. Let me put it back. Those are windows, all right, or panels. So from here you can add more. Let's add one from, let's say, table. Now you see we have a table window now, or panel, and you can close it. You can dock it anywhere you want. You can undock it. You can leave it floating. That's what the window is for. Then your help is where you go to get help. So in this, for help here now, you can either go to their learning portal or to their whatever you are seeing there, or you get the help in this video. So that's it for the menu. I've already talked about the studio, but I'll come back to it. So now your tools, you already know about your tools. If you click on this customize tools, you then see an option to add more tools. We'll get there when we are talking about building your own studio, because if you can see, I built mine, which is what you saw initially. This is my own studio, my own set of tools. If you even check here too, you see it's different from what you have on the vector. So how do you build your own studio? Let's say you want a studio that has your own kind of settings. You can basically customize this studio as you want, then save it as default. So if you right click, you can then update vector. What that will do is, let's say I move this here. When you click update vector, it will then make this the default view. So that when you click on revert, it will then, anytime it does revert, it will always have the color here. But since we didn't do update, that's why the color went back. Now let's create our own. So we come here, click on create studio, and then you put the name of your studio here. So I will say, I already have a food studio, but I can have two food studios. Then clone from. So it will then copy either the way the studio is set or the way the studio is set. You can even copy from an already made studio you did earlier on. All right. Once you do that, you select the color. You see, this is blue. This is the color there. Or is it? Okay, this is the one here. So you can choose your own color. Let's say red. Choose your own icon. Then click on create. And now it has created your own studio. So now let's start customizing our own studio. I'll do something like this. So I'll right click. I'll say customize toolbar. From here, you have tools, which are these. You have toolbar, which are what you can put here. Then you have panels, which is the same thing as windows I mentioned earlier. So unlike on this Windows section where you select, here you toggle on or off. So let me go back to that table here and toggle it on. Now you see it's back. So you can then move it and place it. So let me say I have this here. Slices for exporting. I have this here. Textiles. Turn on now. Okay. Okay, textiles came in here. So if you don't want it there, you drag it out. Then you can put it here. So once you're done with all your panels, okay, let's add one more paragraphs. Let's add paragraph and drag it down here. Or you can also drag it on this one so that you can switch like this. Once you're done with that, you go to toolbar. I think I would like to add this one here. If you don't want it to be together, you can go to the bottom. You then see space or separator. So you can drag the space here. You can drag it here. Or you drag this one here. Or you drag this one. And then drag this one back. So basically, you can also drag any tool. I'm not using a hand tool. We'll do that when we get to the tool. So anyone you're not using, you can drag it back. Drag it back. Drag it back. I'm not using a help. Drag it back. Drag it back. Then drop this back. Drag this. Too small. Too small. Too small. Like a little space. Yes, that's the one. Once you're done, you get to the tools. Then you can then start. I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this. Okay. I need this. I need this. You can also filter the tools you want. So now you're in photo section, now in shape. You want to just see only photo, you just click on photo, show you photo. So once you are done, you click on close, and then you right click and you update food. So that when you click on revert food, nothing happens because that's your new layout, that's your new setup. Now let's say I bring this here now. Watch. If I click on revert, so it goes back. But if I bring this here, then right click and click on update, and I click on revert, see, it doesn't go back because now that's the updated or default. When you click on update, it makes it the default. All right. And that's how you create your own studio. So let's get back to my own studio. This is how my studio looks like for my workflow. So your studio will not be perfect on the first go because it's when you start using Affinity, you will then know what you need. Like I said, I've been using Affinity for long, even before this major update. So I just went to look at my other Affinity, the old version, the designer photo, then came back here, set it up so I can combine all of those windows I had then, how it looked over there here. So how my own studio is I don't have to go to different studios to get, like I don't have to go to layout to try to do layout things. I don't have to go to pixel to try to do pixel things. I don't have to go to vector to do vector things. I merge all of them in one place. That's why my studio is like this. Now, one thing you would love, or one thing I love about Affinity is the fact that you can work non-destructively. What that means is, even if you made a design 2,000 years ago, you can still come today and make an update to that design. Like literally, every layer is preserved as it is, like it's the original. Except you choose to make your workflow destructive, but by default, it is set to be non-destructive, right? So now, this is an example. For this, if you see, this is not purple on first sight until I added that. Then everything became purple. I then had to mask. This is just a little bit I'm showing you. In coming tutorials, we work on more complex designs, right? More complex, and you see how even when we get too far, we can still come back and make a change without having to redo everything we've done in the past just to make one thing and build back up. So now for the settings I use, you go to settings, edit and settings. By default, you have reopen document on startup. No, not that. Documents, switch studio based on file type. Remember when I said that previously? Where you can, when you open more like a file that is more vector based, it will switch like you said, a file that has artboards to switch to vector. Open a file that has pages to switch to layout. You open a file that does not have pages or artboards, to switch to pixel. But if you don't want that, to turn it off from here. Then when you come down, is there another setting if you're using Windows, this is important. If at some point you notice Affinity crashes, like your PC just freezes and there's no way to go back, you have to force shut. Come and turn this off. It's actually a known bug, still yet to be resolved by Affinity. We are enabling GPU acceleration, make some things freeze your PC through Affinity. So you might want to turn this on. User interface, no, not user interface. Shortcuts, this is where you make your shortcuts. This search bar only affects here. It doesn't affect inside of here. So that's why you can't use the search. But then what that shortcut helps me do, I'm done with the shortcut place, is this. I can rotate my artboard or whatever. You know, when you're working, let's say on the packaging design like I do, and you want to rotate, you want to work on the other flap and it's upside down. Instead of you to do your head like this or do your head like this, you just rotate it. So for me, I set Alt rotate to do that. All right. Okay, I have remembered now. It's in general. No, tools. Yes, tools. So this is it. Enable canvas rotation with alt scroll. Turn it on so that you can do that. Tools handle size, leave it at large so that when you're using your pen tool or any tool that has those small points, it will be large for you. And that's it for getting started with Affinity Designer. So if you are coming from Illustrator or Affinity Designer, go to Vector. If you are coming from Affinity Photo or Photoshop, you go to Pixel. If you're coming from InDesign or Affinity Publisher, you go to Layout. If you're coming from Canva AI, go to Canva AI. Although Canva AI is still in the works, not particularly there yet, but to some cases usable. If you are looking for any specific tutorial, you can ask in the comments. If you want to learn something specific, you can ask in the moment. In the comments, not moment. Anyways, I'm making moments. You can ask in the comments whatever tutorial you want within the Affinity suite. It's no longer a suite. Within the Affinity app, it's not all in one. You can ask in the comments. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.